Well, hello again. Thank you for tuning in for your foundational basics on your weekly, for your weekly dose of higher consciousness. So I want to introduce the map of consciousness, which was created through decades of research and consciousness calibrations by Dr. David R. Hawkins. He created the map of consciousness, and it's such a useful tool to the world today. Unfortunately, most of the world is not prepared to hear the truth. And kind of like, what's his name? Jack Nicholson, I think it was the movie A Few Good Men, where he says to Tom Cruise, "You're not ready for the truth." I thought that was hysterical. You may not be ready for the truth, but if you're here, then I think maybe you are ready for the truth. But there's plenty of people in the world that aren't ready for the truth, which is fine because we're an evolving planet. No judgment as to where you are at, and forgive yourself if you're of lower consciousness on many issues, which we all are. All right. So I want to talk about the higher levels of consciousness, because the higher levels of consciousness is where there's true power. There's true happiness. There's true creating the life that you want, that's meaningful and purposeful, and you're having fun and you have great relationships. But if you're like most people, you're a mixed bag of consciousness. I know I am. And when I read the different levels of consciousness, I can see pieces of me in each one of them. So you got to recognize that you are if you're watching this, it's likely you're above 200 on the map of consciousness, because you're ready to make a move. You're ready to make a change. You want to understand, you care about truth. And it's kind of funny, Dr. Hawkins calibrated how many people on the planet really care about knowing the truth, and it's only 2%. So I care about knowing the truth because of some of my life experiences that I've been through. But I can honestly say I'm not completely honest about that, because there's some parts of me I'm still not willing to face the truth about. I kind of ignore them, put them in the background. So don't judge yourself if you don't care about the truth, but maybe you care a little bit about the truth as it concerns your own life and how you can align with what you really want. And this is kind of, law of attraction. If you listen to Esther and Jerry Hicks's and the teachings of Abraham, they are kind of saying the same thing, right? And they're asking you to step into a higher level of consciousness in order to manifest what you want, which is what I'm going to share here today. So the map of consciousness is a scale of 0 to 1,000. 1,000 is the highest level of consciousness a human being can be at and still be in the body. So avatars throughout history that have reached that level of consciousness have been the Buddha, Jesus Christ, Krishna, Zoroaster. I don't know who Zoroaster is, but that's another avatar probably from another tradition. And 200 on the map of consciousness is the level where you're just starting to get into power. So below 200 is a destructive level of consciousness. You can't get anywhere you want to go when you're hanging out in the 200s. And it's a downward pulling energy. And I liken it to crabs in a bucket. If you're hanging out in the lower levels of consciousness, like in anger and righteousness and resentfulness and grief and loss, the energies are pulling you back into the bucket. If you try to get out of the bucket, those energies are going to pull you back in, which is not to say you can't get out of the bucket. You can when you step into power. So we're going to talk about the levels of consciousness above 200. And we're not going to talk about the enlightened levels. That'll be another video because there's a lot going on there. And most people are dealing with the 200s to 400s. Some people are working trying to break through the 400s into the 500s, but not many. So I want to speak to the audience that is likely out there. So 200 is the level of courage. And it's no wonder that many coaches or, inspirational speakers or leaders are encouraging you to step into courage. And intuitively, they knew that's all you needed to do. If if you're dealing with some issue in your life that's of lower consciousness, right? You're disappointed or you're angry or you just can't get where you want to go. You got to step into courage on something. So courage calibrates at 200 on the map of consciousness, which is 10 to the 200th power. This is a logarithmic scale. So as you go up the scale, it becomes quantum in nature. And the power levels just keep getting huge. So the higher level of consciousness you are, the more power you have to manifest the type of life you want. And it doesn't mean power over anybody. It's power within yourself and in your life. And what's going on at courage, I'm just going to talk a little bit because I'm going to get deeper into this in other podcasts. We'll go deeper into courage. So I just want to say courage is at 200 on the map of consciousness. That's 10 to the 200th power. If you have any problems in your life, you got to get to courage in order to start turning that around. The next level is called neutrality. And I love neutrality because I kind of discovered neutrality on my own. And to be neutral calibrates at 10 to the 250th power, which really is a quantum leap up from courage. And I found that when I let go of the need to control anything or have an opinion that I needed to stand up for and fight for and resist against anyone else, when I let go of the need to do that and just became neutral, I became freer. Freedom just kind of came into my life. I'm like, whoa. And it was a battle of wills with my mother when I was a teenager, when I realized I made the shift. I'm like, holy crow, feels good not to have an opinion or have to control anything. So that's a huge leap in power when you understand that to be neutral is far more powerful than having to have a position or an opinion on anything. Let it go. You can stand in your own power by just having confidence in your own beliefs. You don't have to defend them. And when you feel that shift, there is no even push to defend because you're neutral and it doesn't matter. The next leap in consciousness on the map is called willingness. And willingness comes in at 10 to the 310th power. And what's interesting about the level of willingness is the process going on there is intention. And Wayne Dyer and Oprah Winfrey have always used intention in their lives. And they're using the process of intention to manifest what they want. And the two of them are huge creators, huge manifestors. But I found it interesting that when I finally made the connection between what Wayne was talking about and what Oprah mentioned on a video I saw once, she said that every time she had a show, she set her intention for the show and she spoke to her guests, asking them, what is your intention? And those simple things likely contributed to a huge success for her in her life and the impact she's made on the world. So intention is a great level, a great process. And we're going to go into this deeper. I'll do a whole podcast just on willingness. So willingness is at 310 on a map of consciousness, and the process going on there is intention. The next level of consciousness is called acceptance. And that is 350 on the map of consciousness, which is 10 to the 350th power. Now, if you listen carefully to the teachings of Abraham and Esther and Jerry Hicks, excuse me while I have a sip, they're always asking you to be willing to accept that you are the creator of your own experience. They ask you that all the time. Acceptance, and that statement that I just said, to say, I am willing to accept that I am the creator of my own experience, calibrates at 350 on the map of consciousness. So if you can step into your own power and your own willingness to accept that you're the creator, and don't worry if you can't. I know when I first heard that, I was like up in arms. I'm like, are you kidding me? I did not create that mess. You know, I'm like, I created some pretty powerful messes for myself. And I even heard that you are the creator of this. So when you take ownership and responsibility for your own creation, you stop pointing outside of yourself and blaming and shaming everybody else and complaining, then you'll step into real power. So acceptance is huge. That's 10 to the 350th power. And according to Dr. Hawkins' Calibrations, most people that would listen to his lectures or be part of his retreats and lectures and read his books are working somewhere in the mid 300s to high 300s, moving up into the 400s. So this, if you're wondering where you're at, you got to be honest with yourself first. Are you willing to accept that you're creative of your own experience? And if you're not, you kind of have to unravel the energies behind that are keeping you from accepting that. And that's what we're going to learn to do, because I've been doing it for a decade, a long time now. And I can help you through it. And we're going to take it the fun and easy route. We're not going to make it a struggle. You can, though. I mean, there are struggles sometimes when you're not willing to let go of anger and resentment. But you can learn to let that go. All right. Next up is the level of reason, which calibrates at 10 to the 400th power on the map of consciousness. And reason is the land of the mind. This is where the mind is super powerful. And if you're thinking positively or negatively, the mind can create whatever it is you're thinking about. So mind over matter is true. And the body, just so you know, I love to share this, the body calibrates at around 200. It's like neutral. The body is neutral. It's a place to be in this world. And the mind is 400. So whatever you're telling yourself about your body, the body agrees, right? Oh, I'm fat, I'm overweight, I'm ugly, I eat too much, I gain weight fast, I can't lose weight, I'm not good enough, I'm not pretty enough, whatever. The body will morph into whatever it is you're telling it, right? Same with disease. Whatever negatively oriented thought you got going on is creating a vibration in the cells that is causing problems. And this is the science of epigenetics. I was just introduced. I mean, I already had awareness of it. I didn't know it was called epigenetics, but you can change your DNA by the thoughts that you think and the way that you feel and the beliefs that you hold. They're negatively oriented, and I'm going to help you get rid of those as we go along. Slowly but surely, gang, we're going to get there. All right. So the mind at 400 is super powerful. The United States calibrates at around 420 on the map of consciousness. And 50% of the population of the United States calibrates under 200. So the good news is you're likely above 200 if you're listening. And if you're not, if you're honest with yourself and you know you're not, and you're running negatively oriented programs day and night, this is going to help you get out of there. And that's my intention. So the next one on the map of consciousness is love. Love calibrates at 500. And if someone told me that love was where true power and truth was, I would, in the past, I'd be like, I don't think so. That wasn't my experience. I would not accept that. But I've had, you know, the experience of love, presence of love is pretty tremendous. And to see it kind of spelled out for the mind to grasp that there's way more power in love than there is in the mind. And this is a big kind of spiritual block for many people to break through to the level of consciousness of 500. Because they're stuck in the mind and the belief of science and all that stuff. But the 400s is hugely powerful, and it's useful. It's helped create a beautiful society and country and planet that we live in. But to put it into larger context too, I want to let you know that around 85% of the planet calibrates below 200, which is why there's so much pain and suffering, but it has its purpose. It serves a purpose. We're an evolving planet. We're just starting to evolve. The level of consciousness of the planet is now at was at around 207, and we didn't jump above 200 until I think it was 1986 or so that we jumped above 200 as a planet. So that's actually good news. And Dr. Hawkins was concerned that if the planet continued below 200, we would self-destruct because we have too much advanced technology in the hands of babies that don't know any better. But now that the planet is above 200, there's some hope and faith that we can, as a collective, can turn it around. And my intention for providing this weekly dose of higher consciousness is to ask you to help me to step into truth and power and to offset and move that needle, that calibration of the planet from 207 to 250, which is a quantum leap and a huge ask, but I'm going to ask it out loud because I know who's listening. It's something that we can do together. Individuals could do it, but you'd have to be running like 1,000 on the map of consciousness to offset the negativity of planet. We'd probably need, my guess would be 2 or 3 more people that are willing to step into enlightenment at those high levels. It's a huge leap. And even I don't have the courage to do that because I've kind of been there, and I have some courage to do it, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes. A better approach would be to get all of you listening to accept that you have power and that you can step into higher levels pretty quickly. And collectively, we could do it together. So that's my vision for this. And to have fun. Having fun is very powerful. I'll just tell you that. All right, so we're at love at 500, which is 10 to the 500th power. If you know logarithms, or you did your math, it's 10 times 10 times 10 times 10 times 10 times 10 times 10, 500 times. And if you go up one point on the map when you get in this high, it's huge, right? It's huge. So it really starts the line gets really steep as you get higher and higher on this map of consciousness. Joy and unconditional love is up around, well, joy is at 540 on the map of consciousness. And when you experience true joy at this pure high level, it's amazing. It's ecstasy. It's pure ecstasy. And I've experienced this. Joy on the normal human level is different than joy on this level. I can assure you of that. And you're going to hear me say this often. I was not in Kansas anymore. I am not in Kansas. When you're at that level, you're in heaven on earth. And that's just 540. I mean, that's like just so you know, there's only about 0.4% of the planet that ever reaches 540 on the map of consciousness. There's not a lot of people out there. And at last count, there was only about a dozen people on the planet that calibrated above 600, which is still, it's huge that there are that many people because it's not a common thing on this planet. But, you know, God comes in, divinity comes in, and like, we need to help out, you know. Dr. Hawkins came in, by the way. He is of extremely high consciousness. He doesn't mention his level, but he can speak of the levels. So, and when you listen to someone who's operating from an enlightened state, they're kind of they're not it. They're just like speaking. You'll have to listen to some of the stuff. You'll know what I mean. But when you reach those levels, you're operating from a different level. And it's difficult to even operate in the world. So thank God for Dr. Hawkins that his consciousness, and he talks talks as if his consciousness is something other than who he really is, right? It's a second person sort of. It's a little weird, but it's difficult once you hit 600. I knew that in some of the states I was in, I'm like, how can I operate on this planet in this way? And I was worried about it. Anyway, it's all good. So we're not going to talk about enlightenment because most people aren't there. Most listeners are really working in the 2 to 400s maybe. There may be some people. The bulk of the people are going to be listeners and viewers. You're likely in the 2 to 3 to 400s, right? interested in the 500s, we're going to talk about that because it's pure joy and love. It's a beautiful state to be loving and joyful. It's awesome. I can't recommend it enough. However, you can't force it. We're going to talk about that too. No forcing any of this. Dr. Hawkins can assure you that's not a good idea. I can assure you it's not a good idea. All right. Thank you, listener and viewer, for chiming in today. Let me know if you're going to sign up to be a trumpeter of truth with me. And next up, we're going to do foundational basics number 3. Are we on to number 3? We're going to talk about the lower levels of consciousness because all of us have that running, likely. Most of us do. And there's ways to get rid of that. All right. If you love what's going on here and you want to continue, subscribe to trumpeteroftruthradio.com for the podcast and trumpeteroftruth.tv.com for our YouTube channel, my YouTube channel. And you can find my website at trumpeteroftruth.com. I hope that's not too confusing. My name is Liz Gracia. I'm also the founder of the Mind, Body, Spirit Network. You want to check that out too. I have some great stuff going on there. Ciao for now.